A study turns toward quantitative inquiry for the same reason it turns toward any methodology, because the research problem demands it. When you look closely at the tension within a problem, you begin to see what kind of knowledge the field needs to address it. Some problems require a deep understanding of lived experience. Others require integrating meaning and magnitude. But sometimes the puzzle is structural. The unknown does not live in personal narratives or in interpretive meaning, it lives in patterns. It lives in the relationships between variables, in the differences between groups, in the predictors of an outcome, in the magnitude of change over time. Quantitative inquiry becomes necessary when the gap reveals something measurable, something patterned, something that must be examined with clarity and structure. These are the moments when a field realizes it cannot answer its question with stories alone. A district may sense inequity in achievement, but until the patterns are measured, its scope remains invisible. A new intervention may feel promising, but without structured evidence, its impact cannot be known. A school might observe differences in student engagement, but cannot determine what predicts those differences without examining the relationships that shape them. The moment a researcher begins asking questions such as how much, how often, how strong, what predicts, or which group differs, the study begins to lean toward quantitative inquiry. The verbs shift, associate, relate, compare, test, or predict. These are the signals that the phenomenon is calling for analytic clarity, not interpretive depth. At its core, quantitative research is the pursuit of pattern truth. It is the effort to reveal the structure beneath lived experience, the forces that influence outcomes, the amount of variation that exists, the strength of relationships between variables. This is the heart of quantitative work. Not numbers for their own sake, but numbers as representations of something real in the world. Quantitative research translates human experience into measurable evidence, so we can see the shape of the phenomenon with precision. It allows us to understand how variables behave, how they move together, how they differ, and how they influence one another. In this way, quantitative research is deeply ethical. It protects equity by ensuring that decisions are grounded not in assumptions or anecdotes, but in evidence that reflects reality. Quantitative inquiry rests on the logic of variables. Variables are the language of this methodology, the building blocks through which relationships are expressed. Instead of studying people directly, quantitative research studies the attributes that describe their experiences, the indicators of engagement, the measures of achievement, the scores of self-efficacy, the frequencies of behavior. Some variables influence others. Some are influenced. Some explain how or why a relationship works. Some strengthen or weaken an effect. And some are included simply to ensure fairness by accounting for differences that might otherwise distort the results. A good way to see this is through a simple example. Imagine a district trying to understand what predicts ninth grade success. The research problem may describe a pattern of ninth grade failure, and the gap may reveal that the field does not fully understand what drives this outcome. Immediately, potential variables begin to emerge. Middle school GPA might function as a predictor. Attendance could act as another predictor. Participation in a support program might operate as a condition that strengthens or weakens the relationship. These variables are not chosen at random. They arise directly from the story the problem is telling. This is the logic of quantitative work. The research problem reveals the variables, and the variables reveal the structure of the phenomenon. But variables cannot be used until they are measured, and measurement is not a procedural step. It is a profound responsibility. Quantitative research requires translating abstract constructs into observable indicators, turning ideas like belonging, motivation, burnout, or readiness into items, scales, or scores that reflect those concepts accurately. Measurement is representation. It is an ethical act. If we measure poorly, we represent people poorly. Validity ensures that the instrument captures what it claims to measure. Reliability ensures that the measurement is consistent and trustworthy. Together, they uphold the integrity of the study. This is why dissertations rely on validated instruments whenever possible. because the credibility of the findings depends on the accuracy of the measures. Quantitative measurement is sometimes misunderstood as cold or mechanical, but in reality, it is one of the most human forms of precision we have. It asks us to be careful, transparent, and fair. It asks us to define constructs clearly so that participants are represented honestly. It asks us to check our assumptions and ensure that our tools do not distort the experiences they are meant to reflect. Measurement is not about reducing humanity to numbers. It is about giving structure to complex realities so that they can be understood, compared, and acted upon. Even in quantitative research, positionality matters. The quantitative researcher is not an emotionless observer, but a steward of accuracy. Every decision, how variables are defined, which instruments are chosen, which data are included or excluded, which analyses are performed, reflects values and assumptions. Quantitative positionality is the commitment to fairness, clarity, and ethical representation. It is the awareness that analytic choices shape the truths we uncover, and that the responsibility to measure well is a responsibility to the people whose experiences those numbers represent. When you understand why quantitative research is chosen, the methodology begins to make sense. It is not a default or a fallback. It is not a preference for numbers. It is a response to a particular kind of gap, a need for clarity where there is confusion, for structure where there is complexity, for evidence where there are claims. Quantitative research makes invisible patterns visible. It reveals inequities that demand attention. It clarifies outcomes that matter for policy and practice. It provides the measurable foundation upon which decisions can rest. With this foundation in place, understanding what quantitative research is, what it seeks to learn, how variables express relationships, why measurement matters, and what positionality requires, you are ready to explore the designs themselves. Quantitative research is not one thing. It is a family of approaches, each revealing a different kind of truth. Descriptive designs reveal patterns of presence. Correlational designs illuminate relationships. Causal comparative designs examine group differences. Quasi-experimental designs approximate influence. Experimental designs test causal effects with control. Each of these designs answers a different question, and each aligns with the shape of the research problem and the structure of the gap. In the next video, we turn to these designs in detail and explore how quantitative alignment becomes the blueprint for your purpose statement and research questions.